Well, thank you, David, for having us. Um, it's unfortunate we have to do this online, but we're prepared. We did this in the real lockdown in the beginning. We also did it for Hive to do this workshop online. So we came prepared. And by we, I mean woordlenig. And it's a Dutch word, a combination of words. It means get agile. And it's the name of our company. What we help SMEs and existing companies with is exactly what you're doing to innovate and start a new innovation as you were running a startup. So we know a lot about how to know what customers want, so customer interviews and get insights, and also how to validate ideas when you actually want to see if what you think is the truth or a nice opportunity in the market to get that done in a fast and agile way. So Egbert joined as well. Egbert is a co-founder, and I saw our coworker Dan also joined us. So we're with a good group of people from Wordlane. So if you have any questions about anything in this workshop, we're here to help and help you understand better how you can validate ideas today. And when I describe what we do as Wordlenig, and I think what you're also working on, you're really trying to figure out your nice business idea and trying to fine tune it. And then you go to market, and then the market is like that little kid that's thrown over all those bricks, all those plans you made, and then it's all for nothing because the market is different. And that's why we want to break things up into small little chunks and validate them into market. And that's what this workshop is really about. So I'm curious, because we're also not such a big group, it's nice maybe to have some one-on-one interaction. Why do you think most startups fail? What's a core reason why would startups fail? Any of you have an idea why that is?
Lack of research for the market.
Lack of research in the market, yeah. Anyone else?
When you don't know your customer.
When you don't know your customers, yeah.
You don't have the right people.
The right team, the right people, yeah.
And money.
And money, yeah. There's a lot of reasons, obviously. A lot of reasons why things can go wrong. You can come into a horrible fight if you're with a co-founder, obviously. But the number one reasons why startups fail is because there's simply no need for the thing they're trying to offer. And it has a little bit to do with maybe the lack of research, what someone said, or that you don't know your customers, so you're trying to sell something that no customer wants. But no market demand is really the core reasons why startups fail. And all the other ones are sort of related to that. If you don't have the right people on board to figure out what people need, or if you have a technical startup and you don't have a technical founder, you have to hire a software company that's going to cost you a lot of money, you're going to run out of cash, and that's why you stop. So that's why we really want to be sure what customers want and what the market wants to figure out where to go with your startup idea. Some good inspiration is actually those slides on the left bottom. We'll share this presentation afterwards as a PDF. I think David already received it for us. But Failery, Autopsy, those are all really nice long read articles on Medium where founders talk about why their startup failed. So it's really nice to read, and maybe there's something been done in a niche that you're operating in. And it's always nice to learn from competitors or startups that haven't made it, because there's such nice insights in why they didn't make it. So what we're going to talk about today, I don't know if any of you do business administration or any sort of economics on business. Traditionally, especially in the Netherlands, you teach this. You have an idea, you write a business case, you go to a bank or an investor, you build it, you launch it, you market it, and you spend a lot of time, you spend a lot of money, and then you better hope it's going to be all right. But what we're going to talk about is actually a different approach, and it's more the lean startup approach. So you want to learn in small little iterative steps whether your idea works. So you want to kind of strip down your idea to the essential, a minimal viable product, if you will, and then validate upon those ideas to figure out what really works and do small experiments. And this is really important. I took this from a book from Google Sprint, where they create business ideas in just 5 days and validate it at the end of the week. The willingness to change. Probably most of you are still at the beginning of where your product is, and then you're still very open to hear opinions. But when you've been sitting in your attic or garage for the last couple of years working on this perfect product or idea, and you're going to go out to customers to see what they think and they don't like it, you're probably going to think those people just don't get it. I've been working on this for 2 years. They're just idiots. So it's important to share your ideas early on because you're most flexible to still change and adjust your business idea. And it also has a lot to do with a design thinking process. Actually, in the beginning of the process, you're really looking for understanding of what customers need and what problems they encounter. And the more advanced you are, the further along the process you are, you get a better understanding of what the market looks like. You sold your product a couple of times, and then it's time, if you really know what you're doing, to scale and actually invest, for example, into a marketing budget. That if you know, if I put €1 in, I get €2 out, for example, with Google AdWords. But I think most of you are really in this understanding area and still really trying to understand the customers. That's my assumption. And actually what we want to go from assumptions and unclarity to a lot of clarity so we can go to that predictability of what you need to be done. So what you see here in small is the business model canvas, but we use the lean canvas, and all those little bricks are still empty, and you're still trying to figure out whether you have the right problem with the right target group and you provide the right value. And in the end, you're going to know what you're doing, and there's going to be check marks everywhere, and you know for sure what you do. And why is it important to not assume but validate? It's because just like I just said, I assume most of you are at the beginning stage. I obviously don't know that for sure. I assume that because I know the program Hive, but actually what I want to know is make for sure that it is that way. So probably you have a good sense of what you're doing. Probably you're scratching your own itch, a problem you really want to solve. But you want to also hear from other people in the market, from target groups, that they really understand the challenges and they really understand what you're doing and they really buy your added value. So then you can actually scale your product. And very important is that you, in the beginning, you really need to focus on the problem and the customer. And later on, you're going to focus on what features it needs to have or what price you need to charge. You first want to make sure that you're solving actually a problem that needs to be solved. It's a lot of information, but basically this gives you a little bit of a structure. This is the lean canvas, and the lean canvas helps you kind of clear your ideas on what is it that you want to build and come up with what's the problem you want to solve for which customer group on the other end. And then in the middle, the unique value. So in the beginning, you're really focusing only on the problem, the customers, and the unique value. And later on, you're going to focus more on what's the exact solutions you're going to offer. Are you going to sell it through e-commerce platforms, or are you going to put it in a supermarket locally? That's all later on. But first, you want to make sure you're solving a problem that people needs to be solved and have a unique value. As you can see in the order, it's really also in that way. First the problem, then the customers, and then the unique value. Oh. And what is really important is in these accelerators like Hive, and we also teach at Saxion to help students to validate their business idea, is to get out there. I know in Corona time, it's not really easy to get out there, but maybe to get out there, meaning video calls or writing emails to people, posting something on the forum. Because what we see most is that people are perfectioning their idea and not really sharing it with the world. So it's better to just, for example, sell it before you build it. And it's also better to just do it and then ask for permissions afterwards and just say sorry after when it doesn't work. Actually, to fail something, and fail is a big word, but to have not sold a product and hear why people are not buying your product is a great opportunity to learn from that and to see what can be done better in the future. And the last one is really what I see with a lot of technical people, and because we're in Twente Technical University, probably there's also a good chunk of technical products here. Technical founders seems to build a product that needs to be perfect, and the code needs to be polished, and it needs to work fluently. But in the beginning, it's actually okay to just have a little bit of a scrappy version just to get started, to get feedback, and to make it better with user insight. So I already talked about assumptions, and we're going to go a little bit deeper about that. What does it mean that you have an assumption, and how can you make it clear in a hypothesis, maybe? So what we use when we have problems for clients, we're going to first help them get their business case clear in that lean canvas and really get clear what problem are they trying to solve for which customer group for what value. And then you put that in a hypothesis like this. And you want to have like 3 to 6 core hypotheses about the customer, about the problem, and about the value you're offering. And then do a little bit of an experiment to run it to see whether you were right or not. So this is a little bit cryptic. So we took some of the cases we did and to make it a little bit more tangible. So for example, we were working on a product for an industrial design agency in Enschede, and they have a product that will help sickness absence. So their assumption was, we believe that healthcare institutions do not have an overview in sickness absence. And to verify, we run an interactive quiz during a workshop. And we're right if 30% answer, we have no idea. So that's a very easy one. We had a physical event where a lot of people from the target group would come, and then we get some real insights into whether this problem is really something they would run into. This is another one for a software company for metal companies. And one of the assumptions there was that they weren't satisfied with their current software company. So an ERP is an equipment and resource planning tool. It's very technical. But basically, they manage their factory from that software. And we thought they weren't satisfied and that they would be interested in a free scan to figure out how it can be done better. And we're right if 5 companies would actually apply for the scan. And this is also very important. These numbers aren't really, you kind of have to get a sense because actually this means if you want to reach 100 companies, then you get about 20 leads. 100 companies to reach out to is doable, but if you have to reach out to 1,000 to get 20 leads, that's a lot of work. So you also want to have a good number here that you can actually get a nice number if you would actually sell your product for real like this. So basically what you're trying to do is to get some of the questions answered in the business model. And like I said before, it's really about the core of your business, so the problem, the customer, and the value we're adding. So usually we now walk around and fill out your riskiest assumptions with you together. We're asking you to do this afterwards, and we'll send a worksheet. But maybe if there's already some questions, now is maybe a nice intermezzo time to ask some questions about these riskiest assumptions. And the next part will be more about the experiment you're about to run with this assumption. So are there any questions in between? I see some people like nodding or shaking, so I'm gonna assume everything is clear so far. So the next bit, you got your assumptions, and now you really want to prove right or wrong. And you already saw in the hypothesis a free quick scan, a questionnaire on a workshop. Those are all experiments. Some people call them minimal viable products. We don't do that because product sounds too concrete and too big already. We think it should be a really tiny chunk of what you're trying to build. And I put this picture here for a reason, because I think most of you saw Breaking Bad. And in Breaking Bad, actually, for Walter to figure out what it's like to cook meth and to build a meth empire, this was his first little step to try it out in a motorhome somewhere in the desert with just the basic needs. I'm not saying you should build a drug empire, but this is a really nice way of thinking about it. So if you're building something big, try to make it as small as possible. Maybe you could rent something and try it out. If you're going for a restaurant, maybe you can rent a food truck for a weekend to figure it out. So that's the mindset we're going for. So back to the design thinking scheme. When you're still trying to understand the customer and their needs, you're really going to have interviews with them to get a better understanding, or you're going to do some sort of blog where you're going to write an opinion and see how it reacts. And then the more concrete you get, and the more towards the right, you're actually going to make a mock-up or a beta project. You're going to build something yourself. For example, if you're building a technical platform, you're going to build the entire platform at the end of this. But before you start there, you want to start with some small little steps before you get there. So what does this mean? I explained the industrial design agency we work for, and they had that tool that would measure impact on absence on people. And what they noticed was that people were pulling and pushing a lot of heavy equipment in healthcare, and they didn't really have an idea whether that caused absence. And they also had no idea if it was maintaining the guidelines that the government gave them. And with this tool they created, they could actually measure the impact and see how it would work. So we really tried to figure this out in a couple of experiments. And we did this, by the way, with a bachelor student of Twente, and it was her bachelor thesis project. So within 3-4 months, she did a series of experiments to figure out what the right surface design would be for the product. So we started with some preliminary research to figure out what was already there in market, how were they existingly doing their process. And then we had some in-depth customer interviews to really talk what's going on in healthcare, observation, what's going on in daily situations. Then the interactive workshop that we just talked about, another assumption we had. Then we made sort of a test pitch, so trying to sell it before we actually had it. And then we sold a couple of pilot projects to figure out, and together with those pilot projects, designing a surface design for the first concept and product. And this line can go on because actually it's nice to just keep iterating, keep listening to your customer, and build the product as you go. So that minimal viable product is just enough so you don't waste your time, but it should be real enough so you get an idea of that it's actually working. And it should be really the core of what you think you're trying to solve. So we're looking at riskiest assumption. It should be somewhere around the problem that you're trying to solve for your customers to really figure that out, not around the price or any of the features. It should really be the core of what you're doing. And Goldilocks quality, I'll show you an example, an American example, and then some local examples on what is just good enough to test your hypothesis. So the right mindset is to approach your experiment as if it's real, but it's not really real. And what do I mean by that? Zappos is a shoe store, an online shoe store, and they came to market at the late 90s. And this was just when the internet starting to come up. and people didn't really believe you would buy shoes or clothing online. So the founder had a really hard time building his platform because nobody really wanted to fund his startup idea. So what did he do? He built a hacky website himself, which had photos of a local shoe store, and he took the photos of the shoes in the store. And then when you clicked on it, he got an email, and then he would buy the shoes and send it to the customer. And then obviously he wouldn't make any money, and he would be really busy like a concierge trying to arrange everything. But when he did that a couple of hundred times and he proved that his idea selling shoes online with a simple website was working, he could easily get investors convinced that this is a good idea because he proved he was right. So what you're trying to do with this experiment is really creating sort of a facade like you see in those old Western movies. Really cardboard in the back. You get the feeling it's the city, but it's not really the city. So this is really the mindset you have to have for an experiment. It doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be complete, as long as it gives you the illusion that it's complete and ready to go. It's always nice to talk about examples in the States, and especially at the era of the internet bubble in the 2000s and how that proved. But it's also nice to show some local examples and also small examples on how you get inspired to have your minimal experiment. So this is a party in Enschede that they sold out within seconds. What they did was they posted a sort of a manifesto on saying, why are we going out in the middle of the night until 4 a.m.? I actually like to go out at 7:30 or 8 o'clock and be home around midnight because I have kids, because I get a little bit older. So this was really targeted at young parents and people in their 30s, 40s that like to go party, but also like to go sleep, like it says over there. I like to party, but I also like to sleep. And this manifesto got viral, and then they just sold out a couple of their first editions. And even before they had this nice artwork. So they just had an idea and they shared that idea and it got momentum. So it's just the first small step you could take. And this artwork will come later. You don't need the perfect artwork in the beginning. And while we got this thing in the right, they also tried to set up a festival, but unfortunately that didn't go well. They tried to crowdfund their festival so they would have all the cost in the end of the case of the event happening. So they tried to sell at least a couple of thousand tickets before they would actually invest in starting the real festival. That they didn't, so they paid back their customers and they only did the club shows, which were around 500-600 people at a time. This is another nice example of an experiment. It's a entrepreneur also from this area, and he is very well connected with Chinese suppliers. So when he heard that Apple wasn't going to do the AirPad, the charging pad for iPhone and the Apple Watch, he tried to kind of make it look like he had a solution for that. He had existing technology, and there was sort of a product that kind of fitted, but he rebranded the thing and he made a render with someone and he said, we're going to make this thing because Apple isn't going to make it. We're going to sell this. And then he started emailing all the tech people that wrote about that AirPad. And he said, we have a solution. We're going to bring this product. It's going to call the Air Unleashed. We're going to unleash the pad and we're going to do this. And within a couple of weeks, they got so much momentum that people were actually excited about this thing happening. So they pre-ordered a product, sent it to a couple of reviews, and then the thing really got viral. He got into a couple of YouTube shows with great unboxers and then sold many of these devices. So as you can see, you take all small iterative steps, first a render, then a prototype, and then to scale up to actual sales or pre-sales of the product. Another nice example for if you're running a product in the Netherlands is Marktplaats. It's like eBay. I think eBay even bought Marktplaats. It's a second-hand site, and which is nice. Maybe you recognize the bike. This is Swapfeet, and when they just started, they just offered their assumption online. So what they're bringing is bike as a service, and that you would have a fixed monthly fee, and you would get a bike for them. So they offered it at Marktplaats to see if they can sell a couple of services like that, and if people are ready to have a bike as a service. And from there on out, they kind of built their network. So it was really smart of them to start off there because people are already looking for bikes there. And it's a really nice way to figure out, is this really something people would want? Because it sounded very obvious, bike as a service, but then you got to validate and see how you can scale. And also sometimes just posting one video or a blog is enough. This writer and used to be a freelancer, she posted a video of herself being broke, and she thought a lot of freelancers were broke because they didn't make smart financial decisions. So she said, I'm broke, I have €0, and I want to make a fortune. And I'm going to discover that by talking to a lot of people, and I'm going to write a book about it. So if you believe in that, please donate €10 and you'll get a book at the end. And this was in 2016 when this happened. But in just this year, she released the book. So it really took her 4 or 5 years to actually write the book and go through the entire process. But in the process, she already got the funding because a lot of people pre-ordered the book. And she learned a lot of people along the way with the same mindset. So just sharing your mindset is sometimes enough to get momentum in your business idea. And I think this is the last one, and I hope you're a little bit inspired on how small these experiments can be, and that you don't have to buy or build an entire product or develop and produce it all the way together. This is always a fun example of people that want to run a restaurant or a bar. Many of them think, I need to make that business case and I need to get money of the bank before I get started. And then I just hope that people like what I'm offering. This is Broodbode. Maybe some of you would know it. They have a really nice downtown store with lekkere broodjes. But they started out actually as a business-to-business idea. They wanted to deliver bread and juice for business lunches. And the founder actually made some own breads in his own house kitchen. And he went around with samples and a business card. Simple as that. He just said, these are our sandwiches, and this is what we can offer. And we're a service company that delivers to your doorstep. So from there on out, they kind of slowly grew to business lunches, to having their own lunchroom, to having multiple locations with a franchise formula. So as you can see, it's all small iterative steps, because the nice quality of the bread and how they do it in the atmosphere, it all came later and built around the concept as they grew. So yeah, this is usually again where we say get to work and get to your assumptions and what would be a feasible experiment to work with. One of the main takeaways from that experiment, what experiment you should choose, is really make it as small as possible and also as close to what you're personally good at. If you're already making videos, make it a video. If you're already good at making designs, make it a small visual design of what you're trying to do. So make it as small as possible within 2 weeks, but better if you could make it tomorrow, then tomorrow you can start experimenting. I have some final slides to conclude with, some takeaways, but maybe in between, are there some things that people are wondering about on experiments?
Hello.
Yes.
I wanted to share something. You talked about how we can
experiment things. I thought maybe we could also work, just do the job. Maybe if I want to open a restaurant or something related to restaurant business, for example, I can go and work as a waiter. So you can get the experience, you can just get the atmosphere, what even your employees feel and what they think about. So at the end, when you open your restaurant, you know what you were in their shoes, you were in their place, that could be possibility as well.
It's a very good experiment to run and to see what's going on. Maybe you see frustrations of customers, or maybe frustrations of people that work there, and how you're going to change that and make it better.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about it, running an experiment, is to really have an assumption. So it's nice if you would do the job for, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
How would you do it differently? And what do you want to do differently? What's your assumption in the line?
Yeah.
What idea are you working on?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm working on a like a grocery store delivery, but it's specialized for the people with immigrant background. Because I explained before, there were so many like Arabic stores and Turkish stores everywhere, but there is no delivery system for them. There you can maybe order from the Albert Heijn. I'm not sure yet. You can probably order something from the supermarkets here, like home delivery, but there is no home delivery for all the people with backgrounds, and they go to these stores. Every time they're still working these stores with the big competition. With Albert Heijn and other supermarkets, but still they're working because they have their own customers. So if we have delivery for them, it's gonna be good. That's my idea. Yeah.
This is a great thing you can validate, actually. I think you can, just like that guy from the shoe store, try to stand at the store, obviously with mask now, and then hand out a flyer. I'm going to deliver these products to you. Just fill out my sheet. What do you want to have? Peppers and this paste, and you just go to your local Turkish store or international store and you pick up those goods, maybe with not much profit, but at least if you did it a couple of times, we can build a customer base and go to the wholesale.
Yes, actually, I already thought of it. Actually, I could just post a picture, design a graphic design, a picture with my number, and you can call me, and then I can start with this. You can call me, I just bring the stuff to you, and you pay the bill for me, and I can understand how's the market going. Yeah,
exactly. And then learn along the way who the wholesaler is, how to get a better price, infrastructure if you have too many orders, but start small.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions on how they run the 2 experiments?
Yeah, I had a quick question because I was actually having a bit of trouble trying to validate how to, I guess, test drive my idea. And in short, my idea is I want to connect buyers and sellers of used cars. And what my value proposition is that I'd be giving the seller of the car the amount that he wants to sell the car for. And then for the buyer, I'm going to be giving him a car that's practically brand new and doesn't have any issues with it. And it would be through a platform based. And yeah, I was having kind of a hard time trying to, like I said, test drive that because it's kind of a more like niche kind of idea that I want to do.
Well, you can start by maybe helping someone sell their car, right? And see all the problems that arise there. Or maybe, but that needs some startup capital, buy a used car and sell it and see how you can kind of optimize that process.
All right.
But I would maybe start with how much do you really know about the buying and selling of cars? Maybe you can start by looking into reviews of competitors because there are already some platforms that do it. And maybe you can learn from them to see how they're not fulfilling customer needs. Like if you're looking locally, you for example have ik wil van mijn auto af.nl en wij verkopen uw auto wel.nl. All those really corny URL websites.
I have looked at them. I think though, in the sense of like what I want to offer is like most of these platforms, they don't offer the buyer of the car that they're going to get like a pretty fixed car, right? With like no issues on them, and therefore you have to go out of your way to either take it to a mechanic and get it fixed and whatnot, and then that changes the cost of the car. So, for example, I bought a car for 1,000, but then it has issues. Then I have to go pay the mechanic to fix it, pay for the parts. And so, with my platform, I want to be able to sell the car to the seller at the end at a fixed cost without the headache of them having go to the mechanic or anything. Just I'm basically selling them the convenience of just having a good used car without having to go to a mechanic. So that's a bit of the difference in terms of what I want to do into what these other platforms offer.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I think it's time to validate whether customers are really experiencing that. Are they bothered by cars that might not work? And how much can you really offer in the sense of security that the car will keep working, and validate all those little steps in between. I think your concept in general, it's a nice concept, but there's so many little touch points of assumptions there that all of them you kind of want to put in that canvas that I showed, the lean canvas. What's the real problem? What is the real customer group and the added value, and how much can you really deliver, and how can you do it better?
Right. Thanks.
I see Egbert talking, but he's muted.
Hi, I had a small question.
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering about a small thing. You discussed mostly about creating an assumption and then running an experiment to check your assumption. I've created a small website. With a couple of friends, and our main aim is to give this news and events in Dutch around Enschede area in English, so that international or experts can understand the news fast. Now I know that few people from other cities and states in Netherlands have actually tried it before, and it has worked really well. But what my experience is that it's been 2 to 3 months I've started it, but I found that although the style is same, I mean the overall content wise the style is same, but I found that people don't trust. I'm not sure whether it's a trust issue or what, but I saw that I'm getting less followers either on my FB page or on my website. So I was wondering, like you gave an example of the broad border sandwich case that they developed the sandwich slowly. Does having a trust or a goodwill with your product is also a major point in how you actually drive with this experiment?
I would go one step back. You already have sort of customers, viewers. Why do you distrust your website? I would be interested in that. Is there any way you could put on sort of a feedback button that people can reach out to you, or that you can kind of find out who are regular recurring visitors on the website? Did they left emails maybe? Because I want to get one-on-one with them, because there's many things that go through my head. Maybe you use advertising on the website, you monetize. That creates also sort of a unstable or not unstable, a unsecure feeling. Oh, this website might be monetizing this. How true is their content? It doesn't seem like a journalistic platform. But that's also an assumption I have. So actually, you would want to talk to customers and see our clients, readers of the platform, and see why they are distrustful of this content. And then you can work up to new ideas to make it more trustworthy.
But in this case, going one-on-one is really difficult, right? I mean, I do all this work staying at home, and like I do have this
I mean,
channels to give
what
feedback.
do you do? Like this, maybe Google Meet or Skype.
Okay. In this platform, it's slightly difficult. Of course, we have included feedback options like contact details, and also we have an FB page where they can leave comments. But what I understood is we, of course, estimating how many people would approach it was a bit difficult. We guessed on what existing few groups had done before, and they had a huge following. But what we started here, we didn't see that following, and so although so in this case the experiment failed, but we are wondering, not failed but not completely attainable, but what we are wondering whether again it's a trust issue which caused this particular failure.
But how do you know this is a trust issue?
I'm not sure. I'm just wondering if it is a trust issue.
Because
Yeah.
if it's a trust issue, you could come up with different solutions. I mean, you could maybe collaborate with local journalist platform to say, we approve of this message. This is a good translation of Dutch news. You could maybe remove some of the advertising and make it more native. Maybe it has to do something with the colors and design, how the layout is. And there could be many problems with that, but you first need to figure out why they might not distrust your website, and then go back to how to solve that.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Interesting. Did you want to add anything, Egbert, because you were muted? I guess we'll do the roundup and take some of the takeaways because it's a huge opportunity to start a business idea these days, because when we started, half of these tools didn't exist even. So along the way, and the longer we're on the internet, more and more startups, software as a service companies arise, and they help you with payment, with having smart automation, project management, and to save things. So there's a lot of tools you can use to create sort of a minimal experiment. And these are some great tools. Maybe take a look what could be applicable for you. So we have a couple of takeaways, because we started Wordlenig about 4 or 5 years ago, and before that we were also running with a lot of startup companies, and we learned a lot along the time. We know a lot, but we learned also a lot and failed a lot, and we don't want you to do the same thing. So here are some takeaways of that. First, for the experiments, is to really learn from your potential customers and to be open on their feedback, and really have that willingness to change. And this is really an iterative process. So if you do one experiment, that's nothing. It's really that journey that I showed, a couple of experiments along the line, and repeat this process until you have something that you really think, okay, most assumptions are gone, and I know exactly if I put this in, I get that out. So some of the takeaways. Don't wait too long to share your ideas. We already talked about this before, but if you wait too long, you're really gonna think about that the people you're pitching to, that they're idiots, they just don't get it. So this is a little sample of a TV show I love. It's called Silicon Valley, and it's about startup ideas. And this guy is pitching an idea for an app for 8 octopus recipes. And you see from the facial expression of his co-founder that they're not really into it. So I think this is really what's the biggest threat, to really have tunnel vision and to really focus only on your ideas. But once you spread it to other people, you're really going to learn and really know what's good. So if you're really working on that perfect product before you can launch, then actually we would say, if you're really proud of the thing you launched, you launch too late. So really get to market early and try to make it as small as possible. Though you can run an experiment next week. And this is an important one because usually people do, when they know this method of lean startup and figuring things out, they know that they need to run experiments and they want to prove they're right. So you have a certain assumption and you want to prove that it's the case you thought it would be. But actually, it's that openness and the willingness to change that can have the most valuable insights. Sometimes when you get a no, and if people are not happy with what you're offering or not really interested in your whole idea, there's something interesting in that, and that you can learn from it, you can pivot, and you can change it to a whole new business idea from the insight you've gotten along the way. So thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't do this in real life, but do get connected. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Follow us. And if you're still studying, which most of you are, I think, in Saxilner University, we do a lot with students together in projects. So keep an eye out if you also need a graduation assignment. We can maybe work together if you have that entrepreneurial mindset already from Hive. Then maybe later on we can connect and keep in touch. So thank you for listening. I don't know if there's any new questions or how to apply it to your own business idea.
Thank you so much. Nothing for me.
Okay. I think David will send you a couple of PDF documents of this presentation and of the worksheet we have that will list how to write your assumptions and some of the useful tools.
Yes, exactly. This session was recorded, as you already know, and this will be available for all of you on the YouTube channel. Ren's effort, and then you are obviously also happy to look at it if you want to, and the slides will also be shared with you.
Cool. I guess that's it then.
Yes, I have a question for for the people. I've made some screenshots during the presentation, which we maybe want to post on social media. Is everyone okay with it?
Yeah, no problem. I mean, from my side, nobody sees me anyway. It's like,
It's okay for me.
Yeah, it's okay for me.
it's I get some attention. That's good.
Okay, now
Yeah, no problem from us.
But I actually have a question.
Cool. Yeah.
But I don't know exactly how to ask it because I have an idea, but it's based on something that's not out there yet, and it's a little bit complicated to make people picture it. For example, I have this idea that you will, after this corona crisis will pass, you will want to play football at one point, and you will find yourself in another city. Maybe you change location and you don't have anybody, you don't know anybody to play football with, and you might find you might use this app that I'm trying to build to find like matches, like on Tinder, let's say, to people to find other people to play football with. But at the same time, I was thinking about, because this is quite a simple thing to do, but at the same time, I was thinking of creating a database and a ranking system so that everybody could rank itself on an international scale. For example, me, I could be better than 100 other people from China based on how many matches I played, how many times I won, and yeah, this kind of will be the main idea. I don't know how to put this make this more comprehensible for people. Like if I would be to go somewhere and try to pitch this to somebody, how would I be? How would it be better to make it more visual?
I think there are two things in this. I think in the beginning, and it counts for everyone that's working on a business idea, you're really proud to show what you're working on. But actually, when you're still in that problem solution fit, like really figuring out whether you have a right problem to solve for the right people, you don't want to show so much of the product. You really want to focus on, are you solving the right problem? And what I hear from you, actually trying to solve two things for people to connect over football to play together, and
That's
sort of a ranking system.
yeah, because I'm basing my idea on our human competitiveness, to say. Because if I just put the app out there and say, oh look, you guys gather whenever and just play football, they will probably use it for like a month, two max. They're gonna be okay, we play together, we already know each other, let's not use this app, let's just call each other. But through the ranking system, you make sure that they will come back in order to earn points, because this is kind of a thing these days. So they get classed higher in the rank. So might be something from someone from Indonesia that will look at him, hey look, this guy got some skills, let's play with him. And I was thinking, like, you could scale this even bigger, do all kinds of partnership with like agencies, make some events and stuff like this.
I think there's a lot of potential. Obviously, if you get the users, then you've hit gold. Then it's a great concept. But like you're explaining already a lot of features and how the project is really going to work. And I love that you really have a vision on what it should be. But I think what you should focus on is this really something people want and are willing to install an app for, because it's going to be, I don't know, the 20th, 30th app on their phone. So they should really be engaged. There are two things. If you have to pitch it shortly in the lean canvas, there's actually one bit that's called the high level concept. And that's basically to say, how can you pitch your idea in a sentence? You could say like, oh, it's like the Uber for dogs. Or in your case, I was thinking it's the Strava for football.
Strava?
So, do you know Strava?
No.
It's a tracking app for mountain biking and running, and you track your performance and you share your performance. Like, oh, I just did a round on the single of Enschede, and I did it in this much kilometers and burned so many calories. And you can compete your data also with that. But you need something that people all sort of have. Oh, it's like that for that. So that's how to pitch your idea. But for you, I would really focus on how can you validate whether what you think is true is really true. So
Yeah.
are people really open to use an app to track their football data? And what is it really they need and looking for?
Okay, I understand.
And also point is which customer group is waiting for it. So who is the first group of customers who is willing to adjust your idea?
So who are willing to go for it?
We're always looking for the first group of customers who is most open for your idea. So what are the characteristics? Are they playing at a football team already, or are they just playing football at their neighborhood? So you have to make a customer profile of your first group where your solution is the most interesting.
Yeah, so are these 60 plus amateur soccer players, or are these really competitive street soccer kids that already have a phone on them? And that's, I think, an obvious one. But maybe also because when you started your story, I thought, oh, okay, I'm on a holiday or I'm on an exchange program for 6 months in a city. Those people are more intrinsically motivated to find someone else to play soccer with. So I think, yeah, just like Egbert said, who would be the absolute first group of users, and then you can scale, obviously.
Okay,
And-
so the group target should be more precise.
to start
Okay.
with. Yeah. And I think it's an interesting idea because you can also use it for basketball or for other sports as well.
That like soccer was the closest thing I could relate with, because previously in the past conference, the last evening I attended to, there was somebody that asked us what was the one thing you were really enthusiastic about when you were a kid. And I remember there were so many times I wanted to go outside and play football, but there was nobody I could play with, or not enough people.
Oh, that's
And we were
that's a
studying,
good
like,
introduction of your idea
yeah.
without telling your solution.
What?
That was a good introduction of your idea without telling your solution, that you take it back to you when you were a young child, and then you're telling you about what your ambition is with your idea.
Yeah. Well,
Um, and your solution has two aspects. It's social, so you can meet other people, or it's more competition related. I think you have to focus on what is the core.
it's not defined, but I'd say it should be more competition related in order to attract more people.
Those are also interesting to test, huh? With experiments. You could start by putting up a little paper at the Albert Heijn, who wants to play soccer with us. I mean, you can start, maybe not right now is not the best time to test, but you get what I mean. There are little ways you could try in a Facebook group around Enschede. You could see how the response is on the social aspect of gathering. And then the data, you could go to a Reddit group that's all about soccer and then see if people already track data about their performance and learn about that. So see how engaged people are about a certain thing, and then kind of build on those little steps. So really try to make everything a small experiment.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that.
Cool.
Thank you.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Then no more questions.
Then you were the last one. Well, then I want to thank everyone. If no one else has questions, and thanks for
Sorry.
to hear ideas.
Sorry, just again, last moment. I was wondering if later on, if we go through your presentation and if you have some questions, just one or two, would it be possible if we could contact you by